Welcome to Norse Code, the #1 podcast for you Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host and producer. My name is James Pagashnik. Thank you guys so much for listening. And at the other end of the tin can and string, we have our analyst and co-host. You know him from numerous blogs and podcasts around the internet, most notably from theathletic.com. He is Mr. Useful Human, Arif Hassan. Arif, the offensive display tonight clearly shows that we really needed that fourth preseason game.
Yeah. Well, if the Rams were ones to play in a theoretical fourth preseason game, but I imagine if they had four, Matt Stafford still would not have played in it. So, in theory,
that was a real sloppy game on offense. Like Buffalo won, but and won quite handedly. But
yeah. Well, okay. So, with that first interception was just grabbed out of the receiver's hands. For at least on Buffalo's side. But yeah, I mean, Buffalo was also sloppy, but I don't know, man. I had a lot of fun that first half. That first half was a ton of fun because it was all just plays, right? Like it wasn't like a quarterback just missed a receiver and it was just like a bad throw and you're like, all right. It was like just interceptions or completions for like the first 4 drives. That's it. And then you had sacks. And you pressure it was all big plays for like the first half. That ruled, even if it was a little bit sloppy.
The Diggs roll in for the touchdown was
oh my god, that
awesome.
was fantastic.
Yeah, Diggs played well. Josh Allen played well. Matt Stafford did not. Matt Stafford should not run with the ball anymore. I think it's very clear to everyone who's not Matt Stafford, he cannot move that fast.
I think it's funny. I like it.
Well, you can watch it because it's hilarious. There's YouTube videos exist for this purpose, but like, dude, you're being chased down by Von Miller. He's old as hell too, and he's still gonna eat your lunch. Like it.
But like that makes it even funnier when he runs in for a touchdown. Like, I can't believe you got burned by this guy.
Like, if Matt Stafford burns you and he runs in for a touchdown, you need to reevaluate a couple of things in your life. I'm sorry. That is what we learned tonight. Well, welcome to this episode of Norse Code. The regular season is here. Yay! We are going to be back to our twice-a-week shows starting next week, after Monday Night Football and after Thursday Night Football. So check us out. We're back. We're ready to go. The Vikings are ready to play the Packers on Sunday. It's not a primetime game, but a lot of the nation's eyes are going to be on this team. Can't wait to see what happens because a lot of people are saying good things about the kicking game.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Ugh. Well, we've got a lot of things to go into, but before we do, I want to take a moment and talk about the Laquan Treadwell jersey that is not going to be in my house as of next month, and I'm really looking forward to that. We drew a winner. I have contacted him. He has contacted me back. He does, in fact, want it. Thank you, Wade Miller of Minneapolis, for taking this jersey off of my hands. It is greatly appreciated. I don't want to see Roger Goodell's face in my home anymore. He is, in some ways, always going to be in my home, and I don't like that. But at least going to your home will make it so that he is no longer my problem. So thank you. It's greatly appreciated. And to
he's always going to be your problem, right? Like he's always going to
every single time. I'll wake up to go to the bathroom and like the light from the outside will just be like enough from the shades to like shine onto his face. The dude is a vampire. Or a daywalker. But it's bad. But again, I want to thank all of you that have signed up on Patreon, who have sent things through PayPal, who have signed your friends up over on PayPal and Patreon to get to help this. This is our big fundraiser for the year. This is what's sending us to London. We raised a lot of money as a result of this thing. We are so eternally grateful to everyone who has participated in this. Thank you so much. And before I move on and thank a bunch of people, I do want to point out that the real winner here is us for not having to give this to Don from Ohio, because he was in the final 11 people because I selected 11 names from the list, or at random. I had 11 names, and then Don's name just happened to be on it. So the real winner is all of us for Don from Ohio not getting the jersey.
I was so happy because James had me kind of blindly pick from that list of 11 through a 2-stage process. It was a lot, honestly. I was kind of surprised that it went through this much, and every time I was like really worried that I'd accidentally picked Don. So
Yep.
really happy that that things turned out the way they did. That we were able to create an outcome that was better for everybody involved. Obviously, Don's disappointed, but we know that that's a good thing, kind of intrinsically. And so that really kind of validates the decision-making process we went through here.
Yeah, it makes me happy to know that Don's miserable.
Yeah.
Good. So again, thank you so much. We got some names to go through the last batch of people who signed up for Patreon or upgraded. Just want to give some quick thanks here. Micah, thank you so much. AA Ron for upgrading. Again, thank you. David Paul, thank you. I know who you are. Thank you. Chloe and Josh, you were our backup. You were the people who were about to get that. So I'll find something Blair Walsh oriented for you and send it. It'll probably arrive to the house to the left of you, but I'll try my best. Max, thank you for signing up. Josh Matthews, thank you so much. JK, Ryan Menson for upgrading. Outdoor Nerd, thank you. Neil, your new subscriber, thank you. Philip Johnson, new one, thank you so much. Christian Cooper, again, thank you for upgrading. And Tim, thank you for starting up today. Again, all of you who have signed up on Patreon, who have supported the show, thank you so much. This means so much to us in order to go to London. So you guys are awesome. Again, the London show is going to be live after the Saints game, October 2nd, at Antwerp Arms. That is going to be right after the Saints game, right on that Sunday night. So check it out. They're open till, I say late. They're open later than they would have been for the London, the first London recording we attempted back with Dusty. So check it out. We'll be there after the game. I will be there first. Reef will be there second. It's only a couple blocks from the stadium. AntwerpArms.co.uk. We're going to be out there. Check us out. You can also support us over at paypal.me/NorseCode, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and buy in a Reef shower curtain like one person on this planet has, and you can be as cool as Jesse from Brooklyn, which is a fun sentence to say. So
definitely a series of choices that you could fall into, that you could find yourself making. A pattern that we have now noticed with at least one person, where they follow the dangerous pipeline and end up with a shower curtain that has my face on it. Be careful.
Yeah,
you could be next.
The Patreon is turning into a gateway drug to the Threadless stuff. So if you're into gateway drugs, check it out over at patreon.com/NorseCode and help us out there. All right, enough shilling. We have a game to preview. So right now we are going to go to an interview that Arif conducted earlier today with known Royal sympathizer and Packers owner, in quotations, Justice Mosqueda. And he is going to talk all about the Green Bay Packers with Arif. So we'll go to the interview right now.
All right, I'm here with the least valuable member of the Norse Code guest rotation, Justice Mosqueda, known Royalist and Monarch supporter, and also who happens to be a blogger with SB Nation for the Packers. Was it Acme Packing Company, I think, is the SB Nation site for that. So, Justice, how you doing?
Doing great. When did I become a royalist? You just keep calling me different names.
I mean, you talk about Packers royalty all the time. I would just feel like, this sort of colonialism has just been part of your brand for a long time.
Colonialism. Oh my goodness. our team is owned by the fans.
Yeah, I'm sure. And the Queen serves the country. Yeah, same thing for sure.
Sure. What does the Queen mean to you, Arif?
Well, first, a moment of silence for Lizzie. I want to pay respects to you and the tragedy that you suffered today, hearing of her passing. So, moment of silence. All right, great. How has the Queen impacted you personally?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, how is the Queen? I was like, dude, check the news. Not good. It hasn't at all. Not
Wow.
one bit.
Okay. Yeah. So no feelings about Lizzie in a box.
I saw the Irish people chant that at a soccer game.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
I wish I knew more about world politics so I could participate in more things.
That hasn't stopped you before.
Fair. That's fair. We're supposed to talk about football, man. We got a blood match.
Yeah, no, I just it's one of the most American days of the year, the opening of football season, and also the end of another monarch. Extremely American hours right now. Just talk about the Packers. Okay, cool. What do you miss most about Davante Adams?
Not having to wonder if Sammy Watkins is going to lead the team in receptions on Sunday. Because I think that's a real possibility. You know, Allen Lazard's missed back-to-back practices on Wednesday and Thursday when we record this with an ankle injury because someone stepped on him last week at practice.
What's going on there?
I was surprised. It originally was reported as a knee injury, and I was like, how do you get stepped on and have a knee injury? Like, were you running full speed? And then they called it an ankle. I was surprised it wasn't a foot or a toe. I was getting ready for the Tova jokes again. But yeah, I mean, if Lazard isn't out there, I mean, there's a pretty good chance your top 3 wide receivers in the game. I mean, I'm sure Rodgers will want to get Randall Cobb out there more than he usually does, but he's really only out there for third downs in the slot anyway. But if it's not Lazard, I mean, it's going to be Sammy Watkins, who just got here, Christian Watson, who wasn't able to practice or wasn't able to play in the preseason. He was able to practice, wasn't able to play, and then Romeo Doubs. So, I mean, those are all new faces.
So, my question is, like, I know you've never had a ton of confidence in the Packers training staff, but I feel like you're at a new low when they can't diagnose the right body part, right?
I think that one might have been misreported. I think that's how that one worked out.
Okay, so the relationship that Rodgers has with receivers is like famous. He's very particular. He wants them to do things exactly his way, and I feel like with everybody who's new to him, except obviously, of course, Randall Cobb, there just seems like there's going to be a lot of discord, right? It feels like there's a lot of opportunity for Rodgers to get mad at people.
Yeah, I think we set the over-under at 2.5 times that Rodgers yells at a pass catcher in the game on our Thursday show.
Sure.
So,
okay, that makes sense.
You know, Robert Tonyan's still out limited with the knee injury. He tore his ACL last year too, so who knows what's going to happen there. He's chirped at Josiah DeGuara a good amount. I mean, I think we might hit the over. I think Rodgers. This is the classic like Rodgers is going to chew someone's ass out game.
Okay, so leading pass catcher has to be Aaron Jones then, right?
He's a running back, man.
Yeah.
You tell me. I mean, they didn't run. We heard all this stuff from Stenavich, and, you know, they like to protect all their stuff in the preseason and all that. But Stenavich was like, we got to get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon on the field together. They didn't run any two-back stuff this entire preseason outside of, like, using a tight end back there or Amari Rodgers. So.
I mean, the Vikings also like didn't play a fullback in the preseason, and then they rostered one and talked him up all offseason. So, like, I get it, but like, I've heard so many teams talk about, hey, we love the second running back. We got to get, you know, both these running backs on the field at the same time. I've heard it forever.
There's
so
like
many
three teams that actually do it. It's like the Cowboys, the Saints, like the Cardinals. Like, there's very few teams that actually get two backs on the field. Actual running backs, not a running back and a fullback on the field at the same time.
So like, how confident are you that that's actually going to happen? That feels fake.
Not really, because even when they've shown a little bit, like, this is going to sound dumb. I padded their family night practice.
I know
it's the only time we're going to get a look at their starters.
No, hold on. Okay, not everybody on this listening to this is a degenerate. Can you tell me what padding is?
I'm charting everything. I'm charting everything. It's a practice. There's not even a clock, a live clock.
You conceded on the padding versus charting controversy instantly. Okay.
Yeah, I'm beyond the fights. But basically, so they ran a couple, two back sets with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and kind of used Aaron Jones as like a motion man, which is pretty much what they did last year, and they didn't have that many two back snaps last year. So I'm like, I haven't seen anything new out of your two back package. If it's just going to be the same, like AJ Dillon is the dot, running back and single back, Aaron Jones is going to be the motion man. Like, okay, that's not really different than what you're running anyway. And then the other option is like split back gun stuff, where you have Aaron Jones motioning out as like a bubble screen type of guy, which like maybe you replace some of the Devontae Adams like constraints, like just like pure number count stuff, but you're having to use motion. Like Rodgers is going to have to look at that live. I don't know if that's going to be any sort of change of pace for him.
So, I mean, it feels like this offseason has been designed specifically to make Rodgers as uncomfortable as possible, which is why, of course, he has resorted to exploring his chakra. Can you expand on that?
Making him as uncomfortable as I don't know. I mean, they say they talk to him every time. Rodgers was going on McAfee during the draft, telling him how many first round grades they had on wide receivers. He was like, they have 5 first round grades on wide receivers, and then the Packers traded up with you guys, right? Didn't they trade with you guys for like the 20 or 34th pick or whatever?
Yeah, they
it
gave
was,
up 2 seconds to get a second. Yeah,
highway robbery. You got highway robbed. But yeah, and then the Packers afterwards were like, yeah, we really like him. We had a first round grade on him, and it's like, okay, someone was lying. Either you lied to Aaron, or like, there's too many people talking. That's my biggest issue. There's too many people talking.
Well,
I don't like this much clarity in my
receivers?
team.
How many receivers were drafted before Watson?
6, I think.
So 3 of them might not have been first round grades for the Packers.
I think the only one who didn't would have been Dotson. I think that's the one from Washington.
Not Treylon?
Washington. No, apparently they like Treylon.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But
so,
Treylon went before.
Right, yeah. So, okay. With all of that in mind, so they've got an entirely new receiving core. Rodgers is going to yell at them. They are not going to do the 2-back stuff, even though they are going to do the 2-back stuff. They've got 2 or 3 injured are all 3 tight ends injured?
No, Sadie's isn't hurt.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, he has old. He's not hurt. You're right.
Yeah, it's just a veteran rest day, man. This is sports science, by the way. This is sports science. This is why the Rams are the least injured team in the league, like the last 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, guess who hired the Rams athletic trainer?
Did you guys? I'm not surprised if you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, all the player tracking stuff where they're like doing load management and using microchips in the shoulder pads and stuff to just randomly pull guys off of the field. All that stuff comes from the Rams.
Are the Packers doing it?
Yeah.
Cool. So what does the past game look like then?
Oh, man. I mean, it sure hopefully looks like Aaron Rodgers being accurate and a back-to-back MVP quarterback. I'm hoping.
Because the last time Rodgers lost his top receiver was like, what, Jordy Nelson? Those years sucked.
Yeah, it wasn't great, man. It wasn't great. He will say that like he went through injuries and like that's when he cut dairy and gluten out of his diet and started taking his body more seriously. He says all that stuff is kind of what regenerated his career. But I'm pretty worried. I mean, Sammy is going to be able to have some deep speed. I guess so is Watson and Dobbs. But in terms of them being in the right places at the right time, I legitimately worry about that in this game. I mean, Jordan Love threw an interception in the preseason with basically these guys, not including Watson, out there. Watson and Watkins out there. And, like, there were 5 routes, and 3 of the guys ran the wrong route. So he had to, like, force an interception to the guy actually running the right route just because he was, like, the only option open. And it was like, I don't know, man. Those guys are the starters now.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, we're going to find a lot about this Packers pass-catching group if Lazard can't go. I mean, it's trial by fire.
Okay. You're doing all the work for me. I think
I still think we're going to win. I don't think it's going to be
bad. Oh, yeah, they're going to run the wrong routes. Rodgers is going to yell at all his receivers. They keep on talking about ways to mitigate, but they can't do it. They refuse to use 2-back sets. But, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's good. Everyone's happy.
I don't know if everyone's going to be happy on the front. Let's talk about the Vikings defense real quick.
No, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. Let's talk a little bit more about Joe Rogan. What did you find out in your 3-hour deep dive of Aaron Rodgers on Joe Rogan?
I'm trying to think of like what the most interesting thing out of it is. I blocked a lot of it out. Joe Rogan seemed appalled that like NFL players take pills and then are able to play NFL games. Like he seemed legitimately surprised. Yeah, he was like really surprised. Rodgers said he took a Percocet for a game, which is like obviously the Chicago Bears game where he developed a Southern accent in the post-game interview. Which is very money.
Money.
But so Rodgers said he popped a Percocet and he was like, yeah, that was a massive mistake. And then Joe Rogan was like legit shocked that you.
How did he do in that game?
He came back from like 3 scores down. You don't remember this? He got hurt.
No, man. I don't.
He got hurt. Deshaun Kaiser was out there. His bad vibes all around.
Oh, yeah. That was the Kaiser game. Okay, I remember that.
And then he stormed out of the tunnel and was like, screw this.
Wow.
We beat the Bears. This is what we do.
It's a good advertisement for Percocet, I guess. Not that the show endorses that. Rodgers, of course, was being monitored by medical professionals. So keep that in mind, listeners.
The NFL's never had problems with medical professionals.
No.
Never. Don't Google it.
Yeah, the best of the best. And after their NFL career, they only go on to do wonderful things in the field of medicine.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you got canned from the Chargers, you definitely don't just tweet on Twitter. People just
I think that would be a mistake if hypothetically one were to do that. Especially if they were to do it to speculate on injuries.
Yeah, no doctors would ever do that on Twitter.com.
Okay, so
that part is of the, a weird niche. I want to talk about that a little bit. That makes me uncomfortable. That there are doctors that speculate on injuries based off of video on Twitter, and half the time they're wrong. And it's like, I don't know. Doesn't this make your profession look bad that you guys are doing this? Like it used to just be like guys in their underwear who have fantasy teams doing that. But now we have like actual doctors doing it, and they have the same.
Okay, so here's the thing: the guys before the doctor showed up doing that, the guys in their underwear doing that got just as much traction as the doctors do now. People would listen to them just as much. They'd be like, "Oh, that's a non-contact. That sounds like MCL and PCL. That's bad." And people would be like, "Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure." And it turns out they just like stubbed their toe. Like, I feel like if that's going to happen, if people are going to get traction speculating, wouldn't you rather it be a medical professional?
No, I'd rather it be the dummies and we all ignore it. We come together.
But we don't. That's my point, is that we don't.
I would. I'll do it.
But you're
I'll ignore the dummies.
But that's a choice you're already making anyway. Like your behavior doesn't change. You're not listening to the doctors now, are you?
I always listen to the doctors, Reef.
Unlike Aaron Rodgers. Back to square one. Do you think Aaron Rodgers suns his 7th chakra? Yeah. I don't want to get demonetized.
I think he probably does.
Yeah?
I mean, doesn't that
give you cancer?
He probably does. I mean, I'm sure being out in the sun gives you cancer to a certain point, but that was a very blogger question.
The question I just asked.
Yeah, does going into the sun give you cancer?
No. It specifically of the perineum, right? Because that's not an area that tends to get exposed a lot often.
Do you think you're more likely to get skin cancer in different areas of your body? I have no clue.
Yeah.
You're asking
100%.
the wrong person. This is getting very Joe Rogan podcasty.
Yeah, but now we're advocating against Joe Rogan, so we're in a good spot.
I think he suntans his perineum.
Do you think that he did that before or after he met Blue of Earth?
Oh, that was a Shailene thing, definitely.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's true. That's true. So are they cool? Is that like I don't have an understanding of how that worked out.
Shailene and Blue of Earth?
No. Shailene and Rodgers, because like Rodgers kept on acting like they were cool. And then Shailene
was on Instagram being like, "You were the love of my life," and that was great.
So
I don't know.
I've been there. I get it.
You've been there. Tough scene.
Yeah, in high school. That's the thing. That's the
scene.
difference. Rodgers is like 30 something, right?
You know Addy. When Addy leaves me,
Oh, that's
I'll
true.
probably
Yeah,
do
you're
it. Yeah.
done. Yeah, you're
I'm
done.
done. I'm cooked.
Because my understanding is that the only reason you come out of this podcast is that you also aired on your own podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I can
Correct.
answer some questions, I guess.
Okay. Minnesota Vikings defense. Are you
Never
guys,
heard of it.
Are you guys actually convinced that your defense is going to get better without Mike Zimmer?
Am
of that
I
floating around.
like are you saying are we the Vikings?
You collective. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys aren't. You guys aren't a collective shareholders group.
Yeah,
do you think
right. Yeah,
Vikings fans
we are
convinced?
independent. We pull ourselves up by our bootstraps independently. Yeah, I'm not. I think a lot of people are.
What is the case for that? Because I really don't understand that. Like Zim is great at what he does. Maybe he shouldn't have been in a head coaching role, but like him being able to game plan defenses, like no one.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir on this one. Yeah.
Like
Okay. Well, okay. So
hot
here
coverages, like third downs, like no one was better at that than Zim.
they were
No
like
one.
fifth in third down percentage last year. Like the team was awful. They're still fifth defensively in
Yeah.
third down percentage. It's just wild. No, I think Zimmer has 2 out of the 3 best third down defenses in NFL history. So, you know,
I
or at least
believe
going
it.
back to when they tracked it, which is like 91, so 30 years, right?
That's all
But
that counts.
yeah,
If you're looking at any stats before like 2004, to
Right.
recreate like modern looks, like no, doesn't matter.
yeah. So that's gonna. So here's the thing. I think the personnel until maybe one injury occurs is in a better spot than last year. So there is that I guess opportunity to improve, but like people mostly remember the end of half defenses from the Vikings because the Vikings gave up a ton of points last year, like 27th, 28th, 29th or something. And if you can eliminate those last 2 minutes, the mistakes that occurred in the last 2 minutes, if you looked at every team in the league over the course of the other 56 minutes, the Vikings would have been like a 13-3 or 15-1 team. I mean, they were like phenomenal in those 56 minutes. It's those final 2 minutes that really screwed it up. And so if you've got the base to be able to be good for 56 minutes, and you can just fix the one thing, it doesn't even have to be as good as the rest of it. It just has to be NFL average. I think that's where the confidence comes from, is the idea that the defense can get better because really you just have to make sure that they don't screw up in the final moment of a half because they were like in EPA per play, like the defense was like 12th best, even though it gave up the 27th most points, right? So like there were like some bones there, right? There's like a good defense hiding in there somewhere. And I do think that they'll genuinely get better on like first and second down just because that run defense is going to be good. But yeah, I think that it's all going to get washed out by red zone and third down because Mike Zimmer was also really good at red zone. He's one of the few coordinators to post consistent red zone defense percentages because I don't think any other coordinator could be as consistent year to year as he was.
Maybe him
in
and
red zone
Belichick.
defense.
Belichick's a psycho when you look at that.
Okay, actually, no. Belichick doesn't count. Yeah, his for like 20 years too.
Dude, it's unreal.
Yeah,
it's unreal.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's like 5 times as good as like anyone else.
Yeah,
over his
it's
career.
wild.
It's nuts.
But yeah, I think red zone defense will get worse, and I think third down defense will get worse. But luckily, those don't matter. So,
what does your secondary look like? Who's playing in the slot?
Shannon Sullivan. Did you not see that Shannon Sullivan yelled at me on Twitter?
No,
I'll find
great.
it.
What do you say?
Yeah, I'll find it. Yeah. He says I haven't been watching camp. I'll just give you the tweet, man. Obviously.
Yeah, arm me.
The amount of times that you've sent me embarrassing pictures of yourself, I think.
Yeah, there's folders somewhere, and I'm waiting for them to drop.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would never. I would never
so
have.
Defensively, so Booth, your second round pick, and Scene, your first round pick, they're not seeing the field really.
No.
That's kind of crazy.
Did you want more or?
I mean, that's enough for me. I mean, is Booth healthy? I know. What was it? He had like a hernia issue coming out of the draft. That was a pretty big deal. That's the end.
Mhm.
That's why he ended up falling down the draft.
Yeah,
Do those guys look healthy at all? Like if they have to come in and play,
every additional thing with Booth is different and unique in its own way.
Uh-oh.
Right now, it's an ankle, which I don't think he had. Okay, well, so here's what happens, right? So the Vikings, do the thing that every team does, where they say, the first rounders have to earn it. There's going to be a genuine competition at safety and a genuine competition at cornerback. And the Vikings genuinely had a starting quality safety in Cameron Bynum. It was kind of confusing when they drafted a safety. And then those guys actually won the competition, and the Vikings clearly didn't expect that. But they also don't want to like come out of the gate losing games. So I think this is just a case where like Cameron Dancer actually got better, and Cameron Bynum is still playing well. I think it's one of those. And Lewis Cine has been, I would argue, disappointing in camp. A lot of people, disagree. They think that he's been doing all right, but I don't know. I feel like he's late to doing his stuff.
That's crazy because he was so instinctual.
Oh, he's crazy instinctive. He knew the offense's plays before the offense did. It was wild. I sent you the tweet, by the way.
Vikings fans, how are they consuming the Za'Darius stuff? Because Packers fans are pretty hurt right now.
Are they actually hurt, or are they just mad?
Yeah, because he's lied like 5 different times.
Lied?
Yeah. He
lied?
Was like, yes.
Tell me the lie.
Za'Darius lied.
Wait, no, it sounds like you're lying.
No, Za'Darius was like, I was in the facility the whole time to Tyler Dunn, when in fact he was unvaccinated and was leaving the facility constantly, which had to restart.
First of all, we know that the Packers were not enforcing vaccination rules for who could be in and not.
They were doing it inside the building, which is what LaFleur said multiple times.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were. I bet they were.
Room does not count as the building. He said that multiple times. Roger says it's a witch hunt. Look, that's not what it's important. Za'Darius lied. Za'Darius lied after he could have had back surgery well before week 2 of the season.
What do you mean? The injury occurred in week 1.
No.
What do you well before?
No.
Are you saying he should have had it on Tuesday instead of Wednesday?
He started training camp on NFI.
Yeah, and then the Packers told him it would be no big deal, and then he got a second opinion, and the second opinion was like, yeah, you really need surgery. And that's what motivated him.
That's his story.
How do you know that's a lie?
That's his story. Look, I don't want to say
what is
anything.
this?
I've said enough.
I've said enough.
I've said enough. Look, maybe he could have had surgery multiple weeks ahead of time, and maybe they weren't pushing him to play because he wanted to play because it was a contract year for him. Because they did move like a crazy amount of dead cap into his final year's cap hit, which did put him in a position where like he thought he was going to get paid, and then it became, yeah, this is a contract year, but we're not going to be armed up to extend you at all. So you're in a contract year playing for free agency. Basically.
Okay, so
that's not great.
So they told him they didn't want him. Then they told him he didn't need surgery, and then he finds out from a real doctor. They were trying to work on an
extension, and they couldn't come up to a number.
Sure. So then he talks to a real doctor, and the doctor's like, "Man, your back is really screwed up. You got to get this fixed." He gets it fixed, and then he comes back, and everyone treats him like he's some sort of pariah for getting his back fixed, for taking care of himself.
Look, all I'm saying is some people would have maybe liked to seen it get done before week 2.
I just like I mean, it sounded like he aggravated in week 1. It sounds like the Packers wanted him to play.
He couldn't practice.
He's pretty screwed up, man.
He couldn't practice.
Then why did the Packers make him play? That's so screwed up.
Look, do what I did. Go listen to the September.
Okay, first of all, you will never convince me to do something by saying "do what I did." That is the least compelling thing you could have possibly said.
Go back and listen to the September 16th, 2021 press conference Matt LaFleur had, where he seemed very freaking mad that Za'Darius, basically, he came
Send it to me. I'm not going to go back. Send it to me.
He sounded like a person who got convinced by Za'Darius that he was healthy enough to play.
Wow, that sounds like massive amounts of reading in.
No. And then he
send it to me, because I'm not going to do the work to go back all the way to the. Was it you said September 16th? I don't even remember anymore. 16th. Sure, find it
on my. I had to Twitter search it.
No, I'm sure you have it on your hard drive.
He said multiple times. He's like, Za'Darius isn't going to be able to play games until he can play can go in back-to-back practices. We're done with that. He's mad. Now, should a coach get swindled? Should a coach get swindled? Probably not.
This is why he hasn't won Coach of the Year.
He probably honestly shouldn't have last year. Goot probably should have won Executive of the Year last year, though.
He should have won Executive of the Year?
Goot? Yeah.
Oh, Goot.
He got
Okay.
Russell Douglas and Devondre Campbell for nothing. Yeah.
Well, he actually sent it to me, you madman.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to listen to it later. Okay. So, outside of the fact that everybody on... Oh, no, we didn't talk about the offensive line. So, this is something that you should be excited about, right?
I am. The fact that Bach and Jenkins have been able to be... They're listing them as limited.
So, they're on the injury report, but it sounds like they're both going to play.
Yeah, it says they're limited, but they're doing team drills. So,
right.
I mean, they're taking all the snaps.
And Zach Tom is like God's gift to offensive linemen.
He's fun, but the Packers don't seem to like him as much as the fans do. I mean, I think
he's starting, right? He's starting at right guard.
Zach Tom? No.
Yeah. He's not?
No. That's going to be Royce Newman.
Oh. Royce Newman. If I remember from our conversation last year, Royce Newman got screwed up by games all the time.
Yes. Still the case. Still the case based off
of well, I mean, it shouldn't be an issue with a Za'Darius Smith-led defense. That doesn't seem like
oh, man. Dude, if Jenkins went out, Newman would probably play right tackle, and then Jake Hansen, who's
Isn't he a center? Good. Isn't Jake Hansen a center?
He should be a backup center, but Jake Hansen would be starting at right guard in that situation. I think that's how they kind of played him the whole preseason. So
they wouldn't play. They wouldn't play Zach Tom, even though Zach Tom had the best preseason I've ever heard Twitter talk about for an offensive lineman.
He was like the number 1 rated offensive lineman by like PFF and all that stuff too. Yeah, but no, they wouldn't play him. I think they play Jake Hansen. It seems like the way that they've been trending this whole offseason. They rotated in Tom at different times at like left and right tackle. They recently got him looks at left guard, which like that didn't make sense to me because John Runyon Jr. is a really good left guard. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I think Tom is like their 9th offensive lineman on the depth chart, the way it ends up shaking out. So I don't expect to see him.
Is he behind Nyman?
Yeah. Nyman would play left tackle.
So Hansen and Nyman are ahead of him. Does that mean Sean Ryan's ahead of him?
No, not Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan has not been very good. Not Walker.
So Tom is 8th.
No, the 5. Oh yeah. I'm counting.
Good
double counted
Lord.
Newman somehow. I double counted Newman. My bad. I went through my mental checklist.
I can't believe you ran numbers for the XFL. That's insane to me. You can't even do math.
I went 5, and then I was like Newman, Hansen, Ryan. Mentally, I'm like, Newman's not a starter. There's no way Newman's a starter.
All right, so
I'm worried about Za'Darius. This is Za'Darius week. This is blood week.
Right, yeah. Za'Darius is going to get like half the pressures he's going to get this year.
And he's going to have something printed on his T-shirt. And when he gets a sack, he's lifting up.
So he's done that before, right?
He's done it many times.
Oh, yeah, okay. What did he have on a T-shirt last time?
One was Breonna Taylor, I think. And then another time he wrote snubbed because he didn't make All-Pro, I think.
He wrote sup?
Snubbed.
Oh, well, I guess that makes sense. Wait, was that in 2019 at least?
Yeah, I think so, because he made it in 2020. And I think he made Pro Bowls.
Sure.
Both years? I'm not
All right, so you've got 2 injured tackles, blind right guard. You think John Runyon's good. Is Josh Myers any good?
Josh Myers is good. He buried someone in the Kansas City game. The offensive line is good, and I think Jenkins and Bakhtiari are probably healthier than what people expect from limited time. I mean, dude, Bach's injury happened on New Year's Day 2020.
Mm-hmm.
He's got fresh legs.
Yeah, it could be a setback.
He's got fresh legs.
Probably had a setback.
Don't put that in the universe. I think the offensive line is going to be good. The backfield is good. I don't know how they're going to get on the field together, but
is Jordan Love a bust?
I mean, I guess. If you're looking like third year, like 20th overall pick,
Bukowski
I
told me
guess
he's
he is.
good.
Who did?
Bukowski.
His second preseason game this year, he was really good, and that's easily the best I've seen Jordan Love ever.
Okay, you
But
didn't
that's
comment on that, so you don't think Jordan Love is good.
I think that second preseason game was really good. And then the third preseason game, I was like, yeah, this Jordan Love again. Okay. That's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he hasn't gotten a lot of snaps. It's not like he's getting a ton of reps behind Aaron Rodgers. So,
Should the Packers have taken a flyer on Kellen Mond?
I mean, should the Packers have traded up for Justin Jefferson? That would have been nice. Kellen Mond, not so much. I mean, he's on a practice squad now, right?
No, he made a roster. He got waived and he made a roster.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Let's Google it together.
Oh, he's on the Browns.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Whoa. That's weird.
What I guess he actually did not work with Kevin Stefanski, but hey. Is there anything else about the offense we should talk about?
Packers offense?
Yeah.
I think we covered all of it. I mean,
No, hold on. Is Christian Watson going to be a bust?
I have no idea. He hasn't been able to get on the field yet.
Yeah, but he's from NDSU.
He is from NDSU, and he has had 3 knee surgeries to the same knee already.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's never a good sign. Well, hopefully he can run downfield real fast for a couple years.
Yeah, no, he could be a good punt gunner. I agree. Is the Romeo Dubs hype real?
So I think his talent is absolutely as real as people make it out to be.
You changed your display name to Romeo Dubs Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and then he had a couple drops in the preseason, which is what I was about to say after that. the drops are going to be frustrating. He does have a couple drops in him that he's good for. Well, he'll run slot fades against NFL corners and score touchdowns. It's going to be fun.
Give me a yardage for him this year.
This year?
Yeah.
Let's go 550.
Really? That's pretty good. 4th round rookie?
Yeah, pretty solid.
Yeah, you got to be lying. Let's talk about the defense.
He's third in offensive player of the year or offensive rookie of the year odds, which I think is funny.
Yeah, because of your tweets.
Well,
you absolutely moved
10,000 for that. I got him plus 10,000 for that, and now it's up to plus 1,000. So I'm trying to figure out a way how to cash out on that one.
You should.
I'm ready to. I might do that right after we cancel.
That's crazy. So you get a guy on 10,000 to 1 odds. You tweet about him. You change the odds, and now you cash out. That's insider trading. They nailed Calvin Ridley for less.
Dude, you are very overrating how much power I have. I don't. But yeah, I got him and Tyler Algier at the same price.
Where is Algier? Falcons?
Falcons, yeah. I was like, they don't really have running backs. Maybe he'll win the starting job. And nope, swing and a miss.
You should have picked the Texans guy.
I should have.
Yeah, because who's ahead of Dameon Pierce? Nobody, right? When they drafted him, who could you have reasonably said would have been ahead of him?
I have no idea. I guess it Marlon Mack, something.
Yeah, I guess. All right, let's talk about the defense. Who's starting next to Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry? Is it TJ Slayton or Jaron Reed? Because it's not Devontae Wyatt.
Yes, it's Jaron Reed.
Okay.
Wyatt's next guy up, though. Slayton's the backup nose tackle.
Okay. What's wrong with Devontae Wyatt? Why isn't he starting?
He had a concussion in the first preseason game.
He doesn't have a concussion now. Why is he not starting?
Yeah, I mean, I think they really like Reed. Everyone's just head over heels on Reed every single time they go up to a microphone. So, sounds like Reed's pretty good.
It sounds like Wyatt's a bust. It sounds like he's already busting. What's this?
I don't know. He's 24. I don't know.
Yeah, he's old as hell.
Ageism in there. Yeah, I think the defensive line is fine. You don't have to worry about them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the defensive line's great, obviously. I hate it. Kenny Clark, best nose tackle in the league?
Ooh. So it'd be him or Vea, right?
Yeah, I think those are basically your 2 options, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of those 2. I mean, I'd probably go Vea, but Clark is right behind him. It's like
how good is Dean Lowry? It feels like Packers fans tell me he's always underrated, and that you're like in Robert Woods territory. Then so underrated, you're overrated.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they chose to restructure his contract and give him void years instead of extend him. So it's not like they're fighting to keep him in house.
Okay, overrated. Preston Smith, can he be good?
Yeah, I think he can be good. My big question is like,
why does it feel like ever since he showed up on the Packers, he's disappeared?
because they drop him into coverage and just use him as an edge setter.
Why?
That's why. Well, the first 2 years, it's because they had this guy named Zadarius Smith who was able to match up on the inside, and he was able to rush the passer there. That was a pretty good situation they had going for a while. And now I guess like Rashawn Gary is just kind of like their designated pass rusher. They drop.
Well, they're not going to drop Rashawn Gary into coverage, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's just kind of how that works out. The problem is, watch when Preston and Gary, and this is something I'm going to be watching on Sunday, when they get rotated out, because we got Jonathan Garvin, Kingsley Enagbare, and Tipa Nalia behind him.
Man, I hear they suck.
They are not good. I think Kingsley has a chance, but he's still like very young. He started coming on at the end of the preseason, but like Garvin and Tipa don't do anything for me, and they were on the team last year. So like the way the Packers end up rotating these guys, they double rotate the outside linebackers out. So it's not like,
wait, really? So you're not. So there are situations where neither of them are on the field.
Yes, it's like, hey, like Tipa and Garvin. This is the Tipa and Garvin drive, and it's like they can't get off the field.
That's catastrophic.
Why? That was the problem with the Packers.
What's wrong with Joe Barry?
Dude, they've done this since Capers, man.
What's wrong? Yeah, but they don't have to, right? They got a new defensive coordinator. They could just choose not to do that.
I agree, but I'm haunted by this double rotation my entire life. Like it's always Clay Matthews and Perry are on the bench next to each other. It's never just one of them. It's both.
Oh, so here's the thing. Like I feel like every year someone is hyping up the Packers defense. This year, I think PFF Mike has been doing a lot of it. But genuinely,
that first line of the depth chart does look really nice.
Yeah, I mean, so the Vikings
looks really, really nice.
The Vikings' first line of the defensive depth chart actually looks all right. Like that's never the issue. The Packers seem like they're always loaded with, but the defense always seems to disappoint relative to the amount of individual talent they have.
If a pass rusher goes down, we're in trouble. That's what it is. Pass rusher and safety are the two positions where it's like if someone goes down, I don't know if there's depth. Like, I don't know if these guys are even, like, XFL starters.
XFL starters? Well, I guess you would know. Quay Walker, any good?
Quay Walker's very good. He's really fun.
Did they overdraft him?
Huh? Did anyone draft him?
Yeah, did they overdraft him?
Oh, no. I was excited. When they turned in the pick, I was hyped up. I love Quay. I was excited. I wanted Quay. My options going into the draft were the two Georges, right? Karlaftis and Pickens, and then after that, it was Quay. So I was happy to grab Quay.
God, I can't believe Pickens fell as far as he did, man. Like, I get it, but like, okay. I love Pickens, man. I'm going to have to ask you about somebody else, too. Okay. Jaire Alexander. Healthy? Good?
Yeah, seems healthy. I think that cornerback trio is awesome, man. Sounds like Russell is going to get full-time work in the slot. It's going to be really fun.
How much experience does Russell have in the slot?
Not that much. I mean, he was playing outside corner last year.
Yeah, so why would you be excited about him in the slot?
They seem to really like him. Like when Savage was in,
they also seem to really like putting, Jonathan Garvin and Tipa Galea on the field at the same time. Man. Why would I trust that? I've seen
Russell Douglas do great stuff. Russell Douglas is like the third best corner in the league per like all the nerd stats. So
yeah, but I mean, but that's driven by unsustainable stuff like those picks.
That's fine. I'll do it again. Rogers like loves Russell, by the way. Rogers says like Rogers is like the only person like maybe smarter than
Rogers also forced a Randall Cobb trade. He's not a GM.
Yeah, that's true. But he's like the only person like maybe smarter than Russell I've ever played with is Charles Woodson.
Okay.
So whenever you say those things,
does that mean he can play the nickel? That doesn't mean he can play the nickel.
It might
Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard. Matt Burke went to Harvard, and he's 11 points down in the lieutenant governor race.
I did see. I saw one. He's slimmed up.
Yeah, he's super.
And two, he's running. Hashtag he's running.
He's absolutely running. He has an eye on the presidency. You know it.
Matt Burke?
Yeah, he has to.
Didn't Matt Burke
he strikes me as a guy
pills?
who wants that. He wants that.
Wasn't he poison pilled?
Matt Burke? You
Yeah.
thinking about Hutch?
Oh, I was. Okay. I was like, a poison pilled president is kind of a weird
That
situation.
would be very funny.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I think the defense is really good, especially if they're healthy. I mean, you're getting the Packers at the worst time of the year with their defense healthy.
the worst time of the year when the defense.
Someone's going to get hurt eventually. Like,
So I was talking about like how talented I think the individual members of the defense are. Went through it and I talked about how much I love Darnell Savage, and I was getting nothing from the people I was talking to. Why are people down on him? I thought he was like killer.
Savage might be the Wink League on the defense. I think. Like, I don't think he's
Wait, who's the third starting corner?
the third. Douglas.
No, okay, so but you mean that because it's the nickel, but Douglas is the second most talented corner. Who is the other outside corner?
Stokes is going to start as the other outside corner.
Right, but doesn't Stokes suck? How is he not the weak link?
No, Stokes is good.
Nah, he's terrible.
He's terrible.
Yeah, he's awful.
Clipping it.
Yeah, no,
Clipping it.
we'll do that. The only reason you like him is because he's not king.
I mean, that does a lot for me. that goes a long way. Stokes is good. Stokes has incredible makeup speed. He does lose at the line.
I mean, he ran like a 4.21, didn't he?
Yeah, he loses at the line, but he ends up making up for it. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome that didn't just go for a 60-yard touchdown.
What is his PFF? What did the gods at PFF say about him? The unmitigated masters. A 66.3? This guy?
Yeah, rookie year. Let's take a step up.
But that's all you have. What are you
I
talking
use my eyes. I don't need the stats. I watch the Packers every week.
You just gave me like a bunch of PFF stats to justify your dumb takes earlier.
Yeah. As a
Yeah, that's who you are. I understand.
Double standard.
I understand. Consistency is never your game.
Darnell Savage.
51% reception rate? Wow. This is pretty bad. 567 yards allowed. Good lord.
They play
NFL
look,
passer
I don't
rating
trust
is
this for
80.
quarters. I don't trust them grading quarters coverage and like who gets assigned that stuff.
That's your excuse?
Yeah. The Packers play a ton of quarters.
Okay, I'm looking at this right now and I realize one reason I might be biased is because his worst grade was against the Vikings.
Oh, that makes sense. The game where every skill player went for 100 yards.
Yeah. I think it
tough.
was pretty fun, actually.
Agree to disagree. That was a nightmare. Just not being able to stop Thielen, Jefferson, or Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, you're getting the Vikings at the worst time when those receivers are healthy.
So Darnell Savage, he's really good at like getting an inch away from the play and then like missing the pass breakup and allowing a completion. So that's probably why you're not getting much traction on Savage.
So am I wrong? Is he actually bad?
He's not bad. He's just
That's
like
not-
he
that's
hasn't
not-
taken that step yet, though. Like he's an average player with a better upside, but like he hasn't gotten there yet. He has not.
Oh, okay. I just went to his PFF page again. Obviously, we always defer to PFF on everything. Yeah, I guess he had a 58.5 grade last year, and I'm just remembering his 2020, which I thought was really excellent.
Savage, yeah, he'll miss some balls in the air, and it'll get frustrating. Like there's some game. What was it, like the Cincinnati game? I can't remember what game it was. He should have had like 3 different picks, and he came down with none of them. I was like, dang, man.
I feel like that's something that corrects itself.
Yeah, but let's see it. I want to see it. I would love for it to correct itself against Kirk Cousins in week 1.
All right, well, okay, so I don't have to worry about Stokes. I don't have to worry about Savage. Got it. Understand.
I didn't say don't worry about stuff.
What happened to the Vikings kicker that you got? Gabe Burkich?
Oh, he tore his hamstring in the first preseason game,
Jesus.
and they were kicking off like 20-yard kickoffs. So they had to waive him with the injury designation. I don't think they have a settlement yet with him still.
Oh,
So,
wow.
he like legit he tore up his hamstring so bad that if you watch the all 22, he like legit does not move after a kickoff, and they like it legit impacted their special, like they could not get usable film on kickoff in that game. So that's what happened there.
So is that a game where you charted all the special team snaps
Yeah.
and
All
you
3.
can't even use it?
Well, I just did player participation for special team stuff.
Okay. Do you do it for anybody or just for yourself?
I put it up on the site. Had a couple breakdowns. Learning
Yeah.
a lot about
Okay, for
special
yourself. Okay, got it.
teams.
What do you want to know about the Vikings offense?
Is there any reason to think that Kevin O'Connell is going to make this offense better, and why?
What are you talking about, man? Really?
Why would he make this offense better? Didn't you guys just have Kubiak's running through? He's better.
Yeah. Okay.
Than Kubiak?
So obviously, it's still going to be a West Coast system, right? There's no.
So what's the difference?
You cannot seriously be asking that question.
Just like this guy doesn't hate Kirk.
Hold on. Who would you rather have in charge of your offense, Mike McCarthy or Matt LaFleur?
What a dumb question.
They're both West Coast offenses.
I get all right. So what changes between, like, how does the offense look different with Kevin O'Connell and a Kubiak? Because I can tell you how it looks different between LaFleur and McCarthy.
You've got a wider menu of plays. You're giving the quarterback a little bit more in terms of pre-snap to change the play. You're putting receivers on the field more often when it makes sense. You're just generally passing the ball a little bit more. I don't know, man. Like, how did the Rams offense look different to you than the Vikings offense? A bunch of different ways. There's a bunch of motion. There's a much more creative use of a lot of these players. A lot more willingness.
Well, the Rams last year were just like a gun passing team.
Yeah,
they weren't even like, whatever you think, the Shanahan, McVay, Kubiak, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they defer to Matthew Stafford on play action usage. That is correct.
Yeah,
but I mean, like even before last year, right, with Jared Goff, a version of Kirk Cousins, they had a bunch of different tendencies that were a lot different than the Vikings tendencies. Not just more receivers on the field, not just more motion, but like the play action design looked better.
All right, that's fair. I feel like every Packers fan knows the Viking skill players. I just want to know about the offensive line. How are those guys holding up? Because I know Darashaw coming out was, you don't want to call him soft, but like maybe not strong.
Okay. Would you have called him soft if you take out that Miami game?
I can't remember. I remember the Miami game.
I do too, because I remember
watched 3 games of him. I just remember the Miami game.
I was watching him, and I was in a group chat, and midway through the Miami game, I got so mad that I was like, I've never called a football player soft so often in my life. I feel like a Republican. And the group chat roasted me, and then I posted some film from Darashaw in that game. And then they got mad too. Like it was really upsetting watching that Miami.
It was bad. It was bad.
But outside of that, actually, he did finish a lot. He was aggressive. He wasn't soft. I think apparently in the Miami game, he was just playing through like the worst injury. So, no, they like his finishing. I don't know. You saw the McGinn stuff, right? Where like one scout talked about how tough and gritty and how good his finishing was. Another scout called him like soft as hell. Like that feels like it's one game that everyone's talking about. Yeah, the anonymous scouts, the esteemed colleagues of Bob McGinn.
What's the interior looking? So it's Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradbury, and Ed Ingram?
Yeah, Ed Ingram.
How are they looking?
In prison. No, I would say that Ezra Cleveland looks fine. I think that he looks like an average guard, which I think is a pretty significant upgrade from where he was like 2 years ago when he was playing right guard and looked awful. I don't know if you've seen like the projections. I think it was Eric Eager put out for like the individual offensive linemen and how you expect them to be. And they ranked Cleveland pretty low, but honestly, I think that he's done fine. Bradbury is going to continue to be a disaster. I have not seen anything that tells me that that's going to change.
Kenny Clark food. Nice.
Oh, easy. That's a problem. Ed Ingram at times looks really solid. He doesn't look like he fits in with the rest of the line because the rest of the line is super athletic. Because it's like Brian O'Neill, former tight end, Ezra Cleveland. I think he might have been a former tight end, Christian Darrisaw. Like Garrett Bradbury, they all can run, right? They all have the ability to like get out ahead on screen pass. And then there's like Ed Ingram, who is fine athletically, but he's just like clearly a step and a half behind everybody. So it is weird. There's like this weird discordance when they do like the outside zone stuff. But he's relatively strong. He's got much better balance than Ole Udo had last year. But I think he's just gonna make a bunch of mistakes. Like I remember breaking down the Ed Ingram film. I was not that impressed. Then a bunch of LSU fans were like, "Well, he was the best player on their offensive line," and I was like, "Yeah, I know. I watched it. That offensive line was awful.
Not just the offensive line, the whole team.
The whole team, dude. Whoever played right tackle for them last year, man, I hope he gets a degree. I really hope he gets a degree. This is not it for him."
It's LSU, so the good news is, at the very least, he transferred. At the very least, he transferred.
But yeah, I have my concerns about Ingram. I think the athleticism is a big concern. I think that he can get beat to either shoulder by people with quick steps. But he's strong. He's got a good punch, and he's got the ability to get up to the second level if he aims right, which he didn't always do in the preseason. So, but that will improve the pass protection overall, getting rid of Ole Udo and replacing with Ed Ingram. Yeah, I don't know. Like Brian O'Neill will remain a high level right tackle. Christian Darrisaw, I'm worried that the fan base is overrating him. Right now, I'm going to consider him an above average tackle. But they compared him to Trent Williams, and then Trent Williams shows up and compares himself to Christian Darrisaw, and so now everybody's in a froth.
Good
they
Lord.
wore the same number.
Trent Williams last year was the best tackle I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it was
Easily.
Incredible.
Not close. Like,
and he was doing stuff I've never seen tackles do, like stuff that
when they were doing the him motioning out of the backfield to lead block as like an off tight end. That should have been banned. That's absurd. That dude has a head of steam. He's 350 pounds and can run like the wind. Are you kidding me?
And what is he, like 35? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's real. And then they gave him the biggest contract ever for an offensive lineman, even though he was at that age.
Yeah, it was nuts. And he was doing stuff that if you're coaching offensive linemen, you don't want them watching him. One of those guys.
Yeah.
Where it's he's spinning around backwards because he knows he can get to where he needs to go. Just crazy stuff.
There was a time probably 2 years ago where because that was probably peak Bakhtiari before he got injured, right? Mm-hmm. Where everyone's talking about, because of the PFF stats, right?
Right.
They say, Bakhtiari is the best left tackle in the league. And I'm like, he might be the best pass blocker, but I'd still take Trent ahead of him. And I feel like I don't even have to
yeah, and now that Bakhtiari is broken, it's easy for you to say that. You can get away with it.
Well, I'm not so much that. I mean, hopefully Bakhtiari returns and he's as good as he was. But after Trent's last year, it's just it's not even the same game, man. Trent is the best I've ever seen.
Do you know the worst thing is? There's gonna be a debate about him in the Hall of Fame. I know. I can feel
Trent?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very dumb. We should just put up highlights right now.
Yeah, honestly. Anyway, that's your Christian Darrisaw.
After Washington didn't tell him he had a brain tumor.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. Okay. That's all because he had brain surgery. What, twice?
Yeah. He was like, if we didn't catch this fast enough, I would have been dead. That's why he didn't want to play with Washington.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, I have no problem. They fired their entire medical staff trying to make it up to him, and he's like, dude, you don't get it. I do not trust the organization.
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight,
Anyway, that's who Christian Darrisaw is.
Okay.
Right. So
we want to get into predictions,
right? Because I just want to get this out because Breer tweeted out that the Vikings compare Christian Darrisaw to Trent Williams, and then some reporter was like, I see Trent Williams in him. And then Trent Williams shows up for joint practices and he's like, yeah, he and me are the same. And they both wear 71. And it was the worst thing I've ever seen. Darrisaw is fine, but this is going to make him a worse player. The universe will make him worse because of this.
He'll be punished.
Anyway, before we get to predictions, what 40 time do you think Pat O'Donnell ran?
Oh, he ran surprisingly fast, right? He ran a 4.6 or something.
Ah, you nailed 4.64.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Pat O'Donnell talk in the APC Slack, He has a long neck also.
Is he
We're
going to run?
pretty excited about
Is he
him.
going to do fakes?
I don't think so, but he can sure hold that ball, which is the issue that Bohork has had. So
That's what got Bojorquez run out of Buffalo too.
yeah,
Like that specifically that exact issue, which
yeah,
Buffalo's
it's not his punting. It's very weird. It's like, yeah, this guy cannot hang on to a punting job, and it's not because of his punting.
Buffalo's fine at punter now, no issues there. So
Yikes.
glad they moved on.
Yeah, big old yikes from me.
Yeah, oof. Man, 23 bench reps. He could stiff arm, man. Okay, predictions. The Packers are favored by 1.5, right?
Yep.
You know better than me.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that that's a good line?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Maybe a couple more points Packers way, but I probably wouldn't.
A couple
three.
more. When it's basically a pick me, and you're saying a couple more points the Packers way.
Couple. I'm going 17-10 Packers. We got the best defense in the league. We're healthy on that side of the ball.
Oh my god! Is that your actual? Are you going to register that?
We're great.
Are you registering the 17-10 prediction? Is that your final answer?
Yes.
I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna play that back at you. I don't even know if the Vikings are gonna win. I'm not confident in the Vikings, but dude, 17-10. That's nuts. It's like the 10th best offense in the league last year, and then they got better because they got a better offensive
You
coordinator.
think 10 points is too much?
Oh my god! All right,
It's the best defense in the league, maybe in modern
24-20 Vikings. I don't need to hear any more of this.
All right, let's go to the mailbag. And the first question is from Kenneth Allen. He says, I know Arif doesn't like to make season predictions, but what does he expect from the Vikings this year? Are they good? Are they going to make the playoffs? Are they going to be another classic 8-9 team? I like the idea of it being classic.
Classic.
It's
After 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they're probably a better than average team, but not by a substantial enough margin that it's meaningful. Are they going to make the playoffs? I don't really have a ton of respect for the rest of the NFC, so I think that that's possible. But I think they're better than an 8-9 team. Can't wait to be wrong about that. But hey, they lost Kevin O'Connell, and look what happened to the Rams. Certainly, there's no other explanation for how poorly the Rams played than having lost Kevin O'Connell, which, of course, then correlatively implies that the Vikings are much better because of Kevin O'Connell. Definitely a two-stage logic puzzle here where both elements of the puzzle, both premises are sound and don't need to be questioned.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
Let's go to our next question from Andrew Schuba. Says, Peter Bukowski was on Locked On the other day and was waxing poetic about Rasul Douglas as a defensive superstar after getting a handful of unsustainable interceptions. Anthony Harris, anyone? Who is a player on the Vikings that fans and beat writers have similarly drank too much Kool-Aid on?
I mean, it kind of reminds me of Oli Udoh, right? Like that happened until it didn't.
That might have just been because his name was fun to say.
Well, but he also did really well in the one game that he started before everything else happened, right? Against the Chicago Bears in Week 17. That was good. Everyone was really excited. And then he became a guard, and that was it for him. This year, I don't know if there is such a player. Obviously, I'd have to be able to see past my own ability to craft hype, which is admittedly very difficult to do. But it's not like people have been hyping up Ed Ingram or Andrew Booth or Lewis Seen. Maybe Harrison Phillips, right? Like I have been talking him up so much. He's playing like an absolute stud to me. And, maybe he's just good and not like amazing.
That's what the line is for you?
Yep.
Andrew Schuba also asks, could Justice identify the made-up Aaron Rodgers fact? First, that he voluntarily consumes things that will make him vomit and crap himself. 2, he is dating a witch. 3, he points his anus at the sun so as to detoxify.
Normal behavior.
4, he pursued an NFL career out of spite against his college cooking professor. Next, he walks barefoot in the grass to ground himself. Next, he is a Nicolas Cage superfan. And finally, he once saw a UFO.
I really wish I had seen this question before I talked to Justice, but I did ask him if Aaron Rodgers points his anus at the sun in order to detoxify. That did come up in the conversation. So clearly this is on a lot of people's minds. Our top people are on it. We are asking the important questions. Justice thinks that this is true and that this is a relic of the relationship with Shailene Woodley, which, sure. James and I talked about this question before the show, and I think we think it's a trick question because it might be he's dating a witch, because technically Blue of Earth has denied that she is a witch. So that would make that, but the rest, I remember all of these stories, or they're so believable as to be Mandela affected into my brain.
Yes.
So yeah, I think actually all of these are true, and we should just not believe the witch when she says she's not a witch.
Yeah. Well, there's easy ways to figure it out. If she weighs as much as a duck, we're fine.
Yeah. So just put her on a scale with the duck.
Yeah. Jack asks, in Kirk Cousins' MVP season, what is his average YPA, yards per attempt? Also, when was the last time the league MVP was eliminated in the wild card round? Is it a coincidence that it was Adrian Peterson?
I didn't Lamar Jackson get eliminated in the wild card round the year that he won MVP? I'll look this up, but that obviously was certainly much more recent than Adrian Peterson. Let's see. Oh my gosh, the Wikipedia page has every MVP, not just the
2019
press. Yeah. As a 2019 NFL season, let's take a look at the postseason bracket. No, the Ravens were a top seed, so they lost right away, but they were not eliminated in the wild card round. So that's a good point, that usually MVPs aren't even in the wild card round. Cam Newton obviously did not get eliminated that year because that Super Bowl was hilarious. I'm sure one of these Peyton Manning years. Peyton Manning's almost a top seed though. That's the problem.
Manning would have been after the Manning MVP years. I think would have been after Adrian though, because Adrian was 2012.
Yeah, so only one Manning year then, right? Unless there's another Manning year I'm missing. Yeah, I don't know, because most of these guys aren't even playing in the wild card round. Matt Ryan famously played in that Super Bowl, so can't count him. Yeah, he might be Adrian Peterson.
Nope.
Maybe the question,
according to this, is Adrian Peterson.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a very Vikings fact.
Yes. So your question is it a coincidence that it was Adrian Peterson? No, this is divine fate. As for what would make a Kirk Cousins an MVP this year, boy.
Well, so we talked about this a little bit on the Minnesota Vikings football party, and yeah, he'd probably have to get 8.5 yards per attempt or something like that. Like the highest yards per attempt this season was 8.9, or last season was 8.9. That was Joe Burrow. Obviously, he didn't end up winning the MVP. That was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a 7.7 yards per attempt, but his touchdown rate was obscene. So that's kind of why he won it. I think that the thing with Kirk is that, yeah, obviously his statistics have to be good, but they're like fairly commonly good, right? Like the issue is not that he doesn't have like the right yards per attempt to be in the MVP conversation. The issue is all of the other stuff surrounding him, right? The team doesn't win enough. He doesn't do enough to make the team win. He doesn't perform in games where all the eyes are on him. He doesn't do well in high leverage. Like you have to have MVP moments, right? And if you're not like an elite quarterback, right? Like if you're not already acknowledged as a high level quarterback, like a Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady, or an Aaron Rodgers, you need to address some of the concerns surrounding you, right? So like Lamar Jackson, when he won the MVP, was also insanely efficient as a passer, led the league in touchdown percentage as a thrower, right? Like that was part of it. You know, he had to demonstrate that he could throw the ball with a high degree of efficiency, and he did. Cam Newton demonstrated a lot of leadership and was able to generate a bunch of game-winning drives. He led the league that year in game-winning drives. He also had an absurd touchdown rate as a thrower. So I think that if you're not an established elite quarterback, you have to answer some questions about who you, because you can't win the MVP in the postseason, right? Kirk can't win playoff games, then retroactively win the MVP. That gets voted on, right? And so you have to do this stuff in big primetime games in big moments, and it's kind of unfair because if he's the most valuable player in the league, but he doesn't get to do that in giant moments, he's probably not going to win it because people are going to say, "Yeah, I mean, he's always been efficient." But that's never been our question, right? Or, yeah, but what's he do when it counts, right? Those are going to be the questions. I guess if they go like 14-2 and the two losses are in prime time and he goes like 9 yards an attempt, he'll probably get the MVP in that scenario. But still, like he probably has to do all the other stuff that kind of is less important.
Ian Pauly has two questions. The first is the Packers obviously have, or rather obnoxiously, have a lot of talent on their defense, especially on the line. Assuming Bradbury is still a complete liability, what are some of the ways O'Connell can effectively mitigate the pressures without sacrificing the number of playmakers that are on the field in favor of extra blocking help?
I mean, I think in this case, it's something where you tend to throw short, right? And you make Bradbury do stuff that he's good at. Like if you throw a screen pass, you can have Bradbury like block and then release to get into screen blocking. Obviously that sends Kenny Clark after the quarterback, but I'd rather have that than Preston Smith, right? So I think that it's a lot of the mitigation strategies that you normally use against blitzes. So I think screen passes are important. I think that you can get a lot of blockers in space that the Vikings have like a really good set of blockers at skill positions, which is kind of unusual, and they can leverage that for screen passes. But I think just quick game stuff like slants, quick comeback routes, stuff in the flats, just the stuff that Josh Allen was doing at the beginning of the game this week, right? Like just quick game stuff. He was averaging 10 yards an attempt on a quick game, which is kind of hard to do. But other than that, like I think because the skill position group is already so good at yards after the catch type stuff, I don't think you're sacrificing something, right? Because I'd rather have Justin Jefferson catch a ball 80 yards downfield than 10 yards downfield. I think that everybody kind of agrees with that. But yeah, I think that you just kind of get rid of the ball quickly, and you can even have just 5 offensive linemen blocking and just have everybody running a route or in formation or something like that. But you just have to always have an option for when that pressure is showing up.
Ian Pauly also asks, for James's relationship corner, we are currently in the hospital as my wife is being induced. How can I get away with keeping up to date on the game tonight, and more importantly, Sunday, without being considered a bad husband / new father? I'm including this early in the mailbag just in case he needs to hear this information earlier rather than later, as apparently his wife is currently being induced. So, how do you do it? Well, it's a bit like texting and driving. You just got to know when to look up to like see where you're at on the road. And if you do that, you'll be fine and you won't crash with your wife.
Sure.
I'm advocating texting and driving. This probably isn't the best way to go about this.
We are in quite a situation. Huh?
It's like my dad always said. Don't stare. Just don't stare.
Don't stare.
It's the surface of the sun right there. So don't stare. We'll go to Chris, who asks, is double teams drawn a tracked stat? Who do you think has the highest number in the league this year on offense and on defense?
So it's not like a super publicly available statistic, but Seth Walder at ESPN will often tweet out over the course of the year, double team rate and win rate versus double teams. That's always pretty cool. The Vikings, unsurprisingly, at defensive tackle, have done a very poor job of drawing double teams, and also have done a very poor job of winning against double teams. And so, I think that'll change with the defensive line group that they have. As for like who has the highest number in the league this year, Aaron Donald is always up there, right? Which it shouldn't surprise you. But I think that he's probably going to end up being one of the league leaders there. I don't think it's going to be somebody like TJ Watt or Myles Garrett. I think it's going to be Aaron Donald. As for on offense, that one is tougher because like it really depends on a team's defensive setup, whether or not, a team feels comfortable just kind of bracketing a receiver instead of truly doubling them or something like that. But the Vikings could be up there, right? Just because of Justin Jefferson. I guess I'll go with that. I don't really see another team Like, because all the other teams that have like these dominant threats, like your Jamar Chases, right? Like, I would think that somebody like T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd or that group is more threatening to them than somebody like Adam Thielen and and uh, and KJ Osborne, at least early on in the season. So I'm gonna go with Justin Jefferson, even though I think Adam Thielen's like 800, 900 yard receiver. KJ Osborne's potentially a 700 yard receiver. I think probably Jefferson.
A fellow by the name of X61728, who is apparently not a droid of some kind, asks, the big storyline for Dantzler last year was that his poor performance was due to weight gain. Reports from this year have seemed positive. What do you think happened? Are we going to find out on Sunday that he is still, in fact, slow?
I mean, he's been playing really well in camp. Um, it's less weight gain and more kind of non-efficient weight gain, or not putting on weight in a way that kind of enables performance. And so if he's gaining like muscles that are not going to help him play, like if he's got giant neck muscles or something, right, that's just weight, right? That's not going to help him very much. It might, I guess, protect him from concussions. I don't know. I think that's how that works. But for the most part, it's not going to make him play any faster. Whereas if you get bigger legs, generally speaking, that's going to help. So I think that, and he might not have been gaining purely muscle weight or anything like that. So I think that plays a role. He certainly doesn't look as skinny as he was as a rookie when I saw him in camp this year. So I do think that he's continued to add some size on that frame. But I think that it is just kind of monitoring in a way that's really effective for him, as opposed to just asking him to throw on pounds and not really thinking about how that's going to happen or how it should express itself.
Next question is from Cody, who asks, hypothetically, if both Kirk Cousins and Nick Mullins managed to get injured in the same game and were unavailable to play the next week, do you think David Blau would actually start the next game, or do you think that they would panic and sign Sean Mannion off of Seattle's practice squad?
No, I don't think so. I think that they would. Well, I don't know about Sean Mannion. If it was just a question of whether or not they would play David Blau or Sean Mannion, I think they would just kind of bite the bullet and play David Blau. I think that if Sean Mannion was going to be in a position to play, they probably would have either paid him more to be on their own practice squad, then they wouldn't have to worry about it, or they would have just rostered him. Honestly, like, I think if you're at a point where you think that Sean Mannion would play for you over the guy that you put on your practice squad, you probably just want Sean Mannion. So no, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. The Vikings, tried to trade for a quarterback. I guess if it's just for one game, sign like Josh Johnson off the street or something like that. Like, that seems more likely to me.
Also, in the spirit of Emmanuel Acho's epic internet-winning 5 college game day rules, I thought it would be a good idea to ask Arif what 5 rules he would have put in place while he's watching the Vikings on Sundays. Would he, unlike Emmanuel, want to know if someone he loved sadly died?
Okay, so I'm going to put it in the show notes, but for people who haven't seen it, it's basically like a Facebook minion meme that he just posted to Twitter, which is like not where that goes. Just put it on Facebook. College football rules. 1, don't call me at any time on Saturday. 2, if for some reason you decide to text me, it had better be to ask, did you see that? To which I will reply, what do you think? 3, if someone is dying, call 911 before you call me. They are more likely to answer. 4, if someone has already died, do not call me. There is nothing I can do. There is no need for us both to be sad. 5, if you are confused about my availability until January, please refer back to rule number 1. Very boomer. I could see this meme being shared maybe in the early 2000s, but even then, it's just like this is keychain material, right? Like, this is tchotchke at like a mall kiosk.
Spencer's would have this for sure,
right? So James and I spent a lot of time before the show brainstorming the rules that I would have. It was really important to us to get
dozens
this right.
of seconds.
Yeah. Tons of time, dozens and dozens of seconds. We might put it up as merch. I just said that out loud without thinking about it, and now I'm concerned that this might happen.
I'm going to choose to ignore that.
Cool. You all will as well. All right. Rule 1, I'm tired of Josh Allen gifs. I love Josh Allen, by the way. Just stop showing me him hurdling Anthony Barr. I do not care. 2, I'm tired of kicker gifts. 3, I'm tired. 4, please alert me to any changes in the mortality status of my loved ones.
That's
5,
fair. Okay.
Yeah, I proactively I would desire that information. 5, do not tell me if you have any money on anything relating to rule number 4.
So, if say I had your brother in a celebrity death pool,
Right. I don't need to know that. Just tell me that he's dead. So I think those are great rules for watching the Vikings on Sundays.
Let's go to Beef Brewski, who asks, Arif must imagine he's in the year 2032. Ken Burns is narrating a documentary on the previous decade of football. In it, he says, however, everything changed after the publication of one seemingly inconsequential article titled Minnesota Vikings, How Fullback C.J. Ham is the Key to Understanding the New Look Offense. This reshaped the way offenses and defenses approach the game. Provide the context to this statement.
So obviously teams are going to be rolling out with like 3 fullback packages within the next decade. I think the conclusion of the decade is a 3 fullback package. But beyond that, obviously it opens up the Ham package. You're going to see a lot more Ham out on the field, just generally speaking, as a result of that article. I think that kind of one of the trailblazing impacts of this is that the fullback will be a rosterable position in Yahoo Fantasy. So you'll separate the fullback from the running back. And I think this is great because then you can have arguments about whether or not a player should be a fullback or a running back or a fullback or a tight end. What do you do with the Packers' Josiah DeGuara, right? He's officially listed as a tight end, not a fullback, but let's be honest. What's he doing out there? He's playing fullback, right? So I always love the conversation surrounding whether or not a player should be listed at a particular position designation. I've loved it ever since I won a game with Joe Webb at wide receiver. It's phenomenal stuff, and there needs to be more of it. And I think inducting the fullback position is a great way to do that.
I'm just trying to imagine how I would penalize or incentivize the fullback in the Hell League.
Look, man, it almost like the rules are so confusing in the Hell League. I would be scared not to roster one because my opponent might get 90 points from their fullback. And you look at the stat, it's like made 1 block, right? Like I have no idea how this league friggin' works. Like, okay, so I logged in right before the show and I was like, okay, I know none of these kickers missed any kicks, so I should be fine. And I log in and I have like -5 points. And I'm like, what? There's no way. Well, like, unless interceptions are worth like a nutso amount of points, which obviously is possible, right? Are worth a nutso amount of points. There's no way I have negative points. So I log in. I realize, of course, that I am rostering Matthew Stafford. I have no idea who's on any of my teams. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. But like, why -5? And it's like interceptions must be worth a tiny through 3 picks. Interceptions are worth more than they usually are. But they're only worth like -3.5 points. He still scored positive under that point scoring system. Yeah. And so I was like, what? Okay. What? And I look and it's sacks. Quarterbacks are penalized 2 points for taking sacks. Yes. And he took 7 sacks. he did get a point back because he did make a tackle on one of the picks.
Yes.
So
probably the best tackle all day, really.
Yeah, I did get that one back.
I opened up 5 Hell Leagues this year.
Jeez.
And in addition to my brain turning into pudding, as a result of all of these drafts, the people in it didn't seem to take my hint right before the draft when I said, you will be choosing a kicker first round. Or like I was like, the kickers score an absurd number of points. Trust me, you're going to want a kicker right away. A couple of people tried to draft it like a real fantasy team. I don't think these people will be going into the playoffs.
My first 2 picks, I think, were kickers.
I went Justin Tucker first overall in one of the leagues, and Dusty lost his mind. Oh, what a terrible usage of draft capital. And then he immediately
Does
picks
Dusty not know?
well, he didn't look at the rules because it's Dusty. So he didn't see it. He didn't.
Okay, Dusty, I know you don't listen to the show, but pal, the Hell League is different, right?
Oh, he discovered it as the draft went on. he figured it out. Dusty is not somebody who's immune to figuring stuff like this out on his own. No, he figured out quickly when like 8 of the people in the first round chose kickers that I should probably pick up a kicker right now.
It's like, pal, it's not just that you lose I guess 50 points now. Well, who knows what it is by week 8, but it's not.
I have no plans to adjust it, but I have done it in the past.
Right. The thing is, it's not that you're trying to avoid the negative 50 points. Like if you can, you should, right? It's that you want to get a kicker that's going to consistently get you 100 points a game. That's how the league just works. That is an opportunity for you, and you want it. I was losing a game by 50 points, and I had the kicker on Monday night, and I wasn't even that worried. I won 136. And I think Yahoo was like, you only have a 20% chance of winning the game, which first of all, you're losing by 50 points in Yahoo and you only have a kicker left, and Yahoo's like, yeah, you got 1 in 5 odds. And I was like, I'm more confident than that. This kicker, I don't know who I had. It definitely wasn't Justin Tucker. I didn't get Justin Tucker in any of these freaking leagues. I think it was like Harrison Butker, right? So it was like the Chiefs kicker, and I was like, they're gonna nail some points, right? I'm gonna get a 50-yarder in here. I'm gonna get a couple of extra points, and yeah, he got like 136 points or something that game, and I was like, called it, nailed it.
Like the Norse,
Dusty, that's what you're drafting.
Yeah, the Norse Code League is here to teach you many things, or rather, the Hell League is here to teach you many things. I enjoyed that I got ratings of B in all of my Norse Code Hell Leagues. And all the regular leagues, because there's 3 original leagues out there, they were all like C- and all that. I'm like, really? I have officially broken the algorithm. Fantastic. Damian Barrett asks, has any other team ever won the Super Bowl in week 1?
No, I think it's basically impossible for anybody but the Vikings to win the Super Bowl in week 1. Which I was going to bring this up with Justice. I totally forgot to. So thanks you for bringing it up, Damien. I got to say, like, I think it reflects poorly on the Packers that they win about, was this 2022? So they win about 0.1 Super Bowls a year, right? And the Vikings win about a Super Bowl a year, right? Like that's like they've been splitting with the Packers for, the past 5 years. That's about a Super Bowl a year, right? And the Packers win 1/10 of a Super Bowl. The Vikings are, by the Packers fans' own logic, 10 times better than the Packers.
These are numbers that you cannot dispute because it's science.
Yeah. Yeah, this is rock solid data.
Kyle Slaby asks, is the song Inside Out by Eve 6 a commentary about the pain of being a Vikings fan and our internal struggle with this love that will only serve to hurt us?
All right. 1, Eve 6 follows me on Twitter. I will use every opportunity to bring that up. I think I brought this up on the show like 3 other times, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. Good. Which I almost got free tickets the other day. Anyway. 2, here are the opening lyrics to Inside Out, which Eve 6 only refers to as the Heart in a Blender song. I would swallow my pride, I would choke on the rinds, but the lack thereof would leave me empty inside. Swallow my doubt, turn it inside out, find nothing but faith in nothing. Want to put my tender heart in a blender, watch it spin round to a beautiful oblivion. Rendezvous, then I'm through with you. That feels pretty Vikings.
Yeah, that's pretty much there.
Yeah, the next verse is even more Vikings, but this bit's gone on too long.
It stops being funny after verse 1. The Browns Massage Therapist Union
God
asks, how much would Patreon need to raise in order to get Roger Goodell to decorate James's house for next season's kickoff?
What do you think he charges? Like for like a decorating fee, like a interior designer.
Well, so here's the thing. There's a video that the NFL Twitter had put out about involving Roger Goodell pretending to be I want to say like a happy Michael Scott or like a decorative.
Yeah, I was about to say like a Michael Scott. Yeah.
Decorating the office and being obnoxiously optimistic to all of his coworkers and just being silly there. But he decorates the office pretty amazingly, like Dollar Tree stuff everywhere.
Honestly, it's like not a bad skit.
Yeah, but like it goes on for at least a minute too long. But just looking at it, I don't want Roger Goodell anywhere near my home anymore.
I've got bad news for you, buddy.
You could have convinced me before that it might be funny. I have had Roger Goodell in my home for far too long. He needs to leave. He knows that it's time. He's the guy that won't leave the party. Like there's nothing you can say to like, oh, well, I need to go to sleep. Well, actually, wait, before you go, let me talk to you about. No, he's that guy. Roger Goodell needs to leave me the hell alone.
If you say so.
Kevin asks, and just to be sure, I have double checked. Wade Miller definitely wants this thing, so it's not mine. This is not a situation.
Yeah, I'm sure quote Wade Miller really would like to have this Roger Goodell / technically Laquan Treadwell artifact in his house. I'm sure when you reached out to him, he absolutely said yes, thank you. That 100% happened, and you're not just mailing this cursed thing to some random member of the Norse Code Patreon, which we would never do. Thank you for signing up for our Patreon.
A, I'm driving this thing because it's within 6 hours, and B, as the only other human on the planet who has access to the Norse Code email account, I defy you.
Oh, interesting then that the only other person with access to the Norse Code email account disagrees with your version of events, James.
Yeah, that's
curious.
As somebody who doesn't read all his messages when they come from the Norse Code email account, as evidenced by your message to me yesterday, I think you can shut up.
The Norse Code email has become such an integral part of who I am that I just assume that the emails from or to the Norse Code or to me, they've become one and the same. So I've actually become more integrated in the Norse Code email than you, given those mistakes that I've made about who's emailing me and who's emailing Norse Code.
Arif freaks out yesterday because he gets an email saying that a large sum of money has now been transferred out of your account. Now, this happened because I was paying him for airfare stuff with the funds from Patreon.
Yeah, it was just a business expense to cover my London expenses. It's just like this giant sum of money. I'm like, oh god,
like,
and then I click it because it's like, well, I got to know if this is fraudulent or if I just forgot that to pay a mortgage or something. And so I click it and I open it and I was like, oh. Yeah, okay, that follows. That tracks.
And it turns out James sent me a message immediately after he did. Okay.
Yeah, James sent a message saying, hey, here you go. Here's the money you asked for on the way.
So, yeah, as the person who doesn't seem to read his emails very well when he gets them, I'm afraid you don't have much.
The problem here is that I read the email too well.
Oh,
James.
well, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's what happened.
If that's what you need to tell yourself, fine. Kevin asks, my trash was picked up on Tuesday morning, and I still have my trash cans near the street instead of behind my house, where they're typically stored. How long is too long to keep them out of the street?
This is like a very standard question, isn't it? By the time you hear this, it's been too long. That feels right.
I disagree. I never move them. Mine are. I'm in an alley.
Okay. That depends, right, on the nature of, because I never move mine, but like my trash cans are like probably like you just said in an alley, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, my in an alley situation, where they are is probably fine as long as they're not on somebody's grass. It needs to be like mowed. But,
right. But before I moved here to where I live now, I would need to take my trash cans in, otherwise I'd get a fine. And it didn't take like very long. It took like 3 days.
Yeah.
For them to like be upset. It's like, look, man, these trash cans are already out on the street 2 out of 7 days of the week anyway. It doesn't matter. Just Please don't fight. This is so dumb.
We're going to get into the weird stuff now because there was a comment from a coach that we were not able to escape questions on. Ben Brown Plum asks, has a reef ever been described as, quote, very stout, cocky built guy, narrow, thick, strong legs, big glutes, really nice calves?
Not exactly those precise words in that order, but yeah, I've gotten all of those.
I don't wait. This is
What's wrong?
This is, you know what? Good for you and your big glutes. Then
I feel like this is not a situation where you are really in need of details, nor do you desire them.
I absolutely do not desire them. You're absolutely right. Which leads me to Reggie's question. Could you please compliment Arif's body as if you were his special teams coach?
Go for it. What do you got?
No. Next question. Ed Donatello asks, with Quasi watching Evans alone in the dark and Daniel salivating over Rager's thighs, is this the horniest Viking staff in history?
Only for skill position players.
Yeah, as it turns out, it's weird.
Yeah, if you listen to like offensive line coaches talk about offensive linemen that they like a lot, it's like hours of that. So the unique thing is when it happens for skill position players.
Logan asks an urgent question. Help! My son has chewed through his wood pacifier that Arif recommended, and now he has splinters and thinks he's a beaver. What should I do?
Okay, first of all, if your son is old enough to recognize that beavers chew wood, I feel like we're past the pacifier stage, and this should have been accomplished a while ago. Second, you clearly didn't listen to my advice. Then I said you need to get a hardwood that you know won't fall apart after teething. Those woods exist. Come on, man.
Yeah, you also proceeded to explain that metal could also be an option,
Right.
but the way that you described it made it sound more like a marital aid than it did a metal pacifier.
That's just because that's where your brain goes. I'm very wholesome.
Several
And so-
listeners popped that. I got a text early that next morning from one of our listeners who asked, "Why is Arif talking about plugs like that?"
I don't know what you're talking about, but my brain just doesn't go there.
Okay, you're above that. Clearly.
Well, it's not above or below. No judgment from me. I would never judge somebody who thinks a particular way like that. It's just, that's not who I am.
My silence is me deciding whether or not I'm going to challenge this. And the next play has happened. We're going to move on. Nolan Taylor asks, with Arif's disrespect of the podcast, what will be his next "Don't worry, darling" move? Will he spit in Nessie's lap?
Okay, first of all, I would never do that to Nessie. Second, you really should check the Batting Around podcast out. I had a ton of fun.
You know what I enjoyed most was our interaction after you posted that, where I kept posting all these clips of you laughing and pictures of us at games. Scruffy believes in this podcast, darn it.
No, okay, hold on. No, okay. The first one you posted was of me coughing. Second, that one was a Patreon episode, doesn't count. The picture of me at a game, you can't even see me in that picture, so that's not even good proof or evidence.
After the Patreon one was posted, I posted one from a regular episode.
I may have skipped over that in my explanation of how you were wrong.
Because it immediately proves you incorrect. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
No, that we did discuss on Twitter. That was photoshopped.
Yeah, not a thing. Don from Ohio asks, "Dear James and the other guy who completely disrespected the Norse Code brand by saying he doesn't have fun
hold
on the podcast."
Hold on. Of all people who disrespected the Norse Code brand, a little rich coming from Don from Ohio. Can we at least acknowledge that?
You know, Don happens to be right a lot more often than he's not. So
yeah, was he right when he sent you that bingo book?
No, he was absolutely not right. In fact, I wanted to shoot that thing into space.
was he right to lose his wife's jacket or whatever the hell happened in Hawaii?
Nope.
That sounds like he's wrong a lot.
He wasn't right to send me the bingo stuff either. Of all the things I didn't grab, from my when I moved. That was one I was happy to leave there. So yeah.
See?
Well,
Anyway.
anyway, Don from Ohio is very right here when he says, "Dear James and the other guy who completely disrespected the Norse Code brand by saying he doesn't have fun on the podcast. Who has the season-ending injury first, Hunter or Zadarius Smith? And what is the injury that takes them out this time?"
See, Don, this is why I don't have fun on the podcast, because of your questions. Anyway, I think it's Zadarius Smith.
You think it's Zadarius Smith? Is it puppy love? Is it like water on the knee? Is it something else from Operation?
Does Operation have like a broken heart? That's one of them, right?
Yeah, that's Broken Heart. There's the what's it? The rubber band is on there too.
Right. I'm Googling Operation injuries, and I'm realizing as I Google it that's not going to give me anything. Operation.
That's funny. I literally have the game
game.
within like 20 steps of me because my son's room was just right over there. But I'm
Brain freeze, writer's cramp,
yep, because that's the
A-
pencil.
Adam's apple?
Yep.
That's the name. Okay.
They're,
Charlie Horse, I remember that. Funny Bone, remember that. Broken Heart, Water on the Knee, Wishbone, Growling Stomach, and Tennis Elbow.
Mhm.
So those are 10 of them. I'm gonna say that Zadarius Smith gets a Charlie Horse.
that just takes him out for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
That's one real bad Charlie horse.
it's brutal, man. Have you? Yeah, but you've gotten a Charlie Horse.
Yes.
They're awful to work through. This one just happens to last 17 weeks.
When I destroyed my back the last time in 2020, right before COVID hit, so I was already like lying down in bed for a bit. It felt like I was having a constant Charlie horse in my right leg. So
Jeez.
that was
See,
like
yeah, it's like
3
that.
weeks of that. Yeah.
It was a good reminder. I should take those vitamin D gummies.
I'm glad that I can inspire people to take medicine and treat their bodies better. Once they hear about the woe I've dealt with my particularly terrible set of bones
Dude,
I've
okay,
abused.
rare compliment from Arif. James is like a champ sometimes when it comes to these things because like he'll like if we need to get a podcast episode out, he'll just be like lying down in bed doing production work while I'm just here like roasting him for going on dates with weirdos. And he's just like, yep, yeah, no, that's totally true, Arif. And he's like in intense pain. And I'm like, yeah, James is an idiot. Ah!
Like, let me tell you the wine towel story now.
Yeah, James is like, I'm dying. Good story, Arif.
Like, I can't move. Meanwhile, I'm talking about the Taco Bell story or the Taco John story. So yeah, it's an odd life, and I get job offers due to my performances at pizza eating contests. So, of all dumb things, yeah. Well, let's end this episode. You've got stuff to plug, but there is something that you wanted to talk about briefly before you get to your stuff at the Athletic. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. So, for the last 6 months, I've been working with a Twitch streamer because she's been under constant harassment. The harassment got bad enough that she got doxxed, her family got doxxed. Oh, for people who aren't familiar, doxing is when people reveal personal private information. So stuff like your address, your phone number, your email, information that you wouldn't want to have public. People would like look through the reflections in her eyes on stream and stuff like that to figure out like where she lived, or they would track down, a building that they see in the shadow of a corner of an image that her partner posted on their private Instagram, right? And triangulate it that way. The harassment campaign got pretty intense. I didn't talk about it a ton because I didn't think it would help her to talk about it. But I did a lot of work with her as well as a team of a bunch of other people that I think were all phenomenal rock stars. A couple of people also got doxxed, also got harassed. I was one of them. So like my address was out there. And I even had to, the threat level for me got enough that I had to check out of my house and stay in a hotel for a little bit. And nothing ended up happening, thankfully. But it got so bad for her that, gosh, August 5th, it was over a month ago. Um, she got swatted, and swatting is when someone attempts to induce a violent police response. And so very often they'll say that there's like an active shooter situation or a hostage situation. In this case, thankfully they executed it very poorly. They sent a really poorly worded email to a bunch of city council members of the city that she lives in, who then forwarded that letter to the police, and then the police showed up at her place with rifles pointed at her, and it was a very traumatic event. And with her address out there, she needed to, with her address out there and knowing that people would act on it, she checked into a hotel, and then very, very soon after, because she took a picture of her cat in the hotel. Just outside of the frame of the cat was a bed sheet, and they spent some time, I presume hours, trying to figure out what hotel she was staying at based off of the bed sheet. And so then they hacked her Uber Eats account and ordered hundreds of dollars of groceries, and then published the address that she was staying at. So she ended up having to flee all the way to Northern Ireland in order to escape all of this. So we decided to start a campaign to bring down that website. And it's something that I've written thousands of words. I've participated in developing press kits. I've worked with programmers and experts on hate forums. I've worked with people who have contacts in a bunch of different technically oriented communities, a bunch of different politically oriented communities, activists, other content creators. And we started that campaign to get the service provider and other types of service companies that provide either protection or hosting or anything along those lines to that website to get taken down. And you may have seen me tweet a couple of days ago that we were successful in that campaign to get it taken down. I just wanted to bring it up because it is something I am so immensely proud of doing. It's something that I don't think I'll ever be able to do again in terms of the impact that it has, because the amount of people that have come out and told her about all of the things that this website have done to them. They're responsible for driving 3 different people to suicide that we know of, potentially more. They're responsible for multiple swattings. They're associated in somewhat of a loose way with the Christchurch massacre, which is why the website was already banned in New Zealand. And I heard story after story of people being assaulted in their homes, people having all kinds of threats being sent their way, people who had to quit their jobs, were forced away from their jobs, their careers because of this website. And it had an even bigger impact. This website's been up for a decade. People have been trying to take it down for as long as it's been up. It is dedicated to cyber stalking. It's dedicated to harassment, and in particular targets marginalized communities. In the past couple of years has exclusively, I shouldn't say exclusively, has with a laser focus looked at trans people as targets of harassment. Although I got my fair share of slurs as well thrown my way. And it seemed impossible. Every content creator that we talked to said it was better not to discuss this website because that would embolden them more. And I think that most of the time that is the correct stance. But your hope in that situation is that they get bored of you and talk to somebody else or harass somebody else. And so somebody's day is always going to be worse because of this website. We were able to remove a couple of there was one very public service provider that removed their services. We were able to remove a couple of the services that they have. And an accidental, we didn't even consider this actually, an incidental part of our ability to get that service provider to stop providing services to this website was that it also knocked out one of the actually the biggest Nazi website in New Zealand. Just they were hosted in the same manner. And it also, after they switched service providers because of that, they were on the same service provider as 2 other websites. One website known for harboring mass shooters and child sexual abuse material, and another website known for, well, the other website was the Daily Stormer. If you're familiar with that, you know what it is. But it's probably the biggest Nazi web forum on the internet. By attacking the servers there, the services there, we were able to get those websites off the internet as well. And so this is the biggest impact I think I've ever had on the world, and I'm very happy about it. It's also what I've been dealing with for the past 6 months. My life has been extremely stressful. James knows about it. I've talked to him a couple of times about this. I've had to leave my home a couple of times because of it. I've had to decompress. I've been late turning in articles. So if you've seen me publish less, a lot of that's because of that. But I'm so incredibly happy and proud that I wanted a space to talk about it with an air of celebration, because this is huge, and I'm so happy I was able to do this. So if you want to know more about it, or if you want to support her work, contact me privately. I'll let you know how. But this is just something that's been on my mind, and I just kind of wanted to let people know. So there you go. That was the thing I wanted to get off my chest.
So where can they find your work, and what have you written?
Yeah, so you can find me at The Athletic, theathletic.com/author/Arif-Hassan. The two most recent articles I've written are one that I co-wrote with Alec Lewis, our newest writer over at The Athletic. He does fantastic work. I urge you to check out his Kevin O'Connell article. But I co-wrote an article with him about whether or not the Vikings can rely on Kirk Cousins to take the next step, if there is indeed a next step for him. The coach and the quarterback themselves that don't think that there is, but I think it was a pretty decent article. And I also wrote an article about how, learning how the Vikings are going to use CJ Ham, the fullback, will tell us a lot about the offense in general. I wanted to be really clear about the wording of the article, because it's not that CJ Ham will be the centerpiece of the offense, which I think some people got that as a takeaway, but rather his usage serves as a really good lesson for how this offense is built. And so I'm really, really happy with how that article turned out. So check that out. And then we've got, a normal Packers preview going up probably by the time you read this, or by the time you listen to this. So head over to The Athletic, check it out. I'll also link some of Alec Lewis's recent articles, because I thought he did a really good job.
We frankly need more articles on Captain Ham. So I fully supported that project from beginning to end. And I enjoyed the fact that he was once again named captain this year.
Yeah, special teams captain, but that's just as important.
Good,
not technical.
Good for Captain Ham. Good.
I think as a percentage of importance, right? That he is the most important captain.
Yeah, he's special.
Right. Because the offense is something like 36. Special teams is about 18%. The defense, I want to say, is the rest. Whatever. The offense is the most important. Then it's the defense and special teams. But Ham himself is responsible for all 18 of that percent, right? Yeah. Whereas the offense, you split that among, 3 or 4 people. The defense, you split that among 3 or 4 people. And now Ham's on top. He's the most important player on the team.
Just ask Justice how important special teams are.
Just ask Justice.
Well, that is going to be it for this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys have all enjoyed it. Again, thank you guys so much for supporting us this year. We'll be back on Monday night, Tuesday morning with the review of the Packers game. So for Arif, my name is James. Thank you guys so much for listening. And thank you guys so much for getting Roger Goodell out of my home. And we'll be back next week. Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog, at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of The Athletic, and he can be found at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN, or my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a few different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merchandise. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
Hey, all things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.